I'm going to put up the poster so that people can, at least see his face when he's talking. So I want to say that this is wonderful to have Jordan back with me. Obviously, we've known each other for quite a long time. And for those of you that are new to Project Camelot, I encourage you to go and watch my original interview with him. It's really quite well liked, and it was a wonderful interview. So that's required viewing, I would say. Okay, so here we're going to go, and one moment while I get the poster online here, and then we'll just give a short introduction for Jordan, basically more or less from his website. So he is a preeminent researcher and an independent scholar in the field of the occult and religious philosophy. His interest in these subjects began as far back as 1959. He served for 3.5 years as the religion editor for Truth Seeker magazine, America's oldest free thought journal. Since 1873, I guess that magazine has been around. And he has done work exploring the hidden foundations of Western religions, secret societies, and has an amazing audience all around the world. He's conducted dozens of intensive seminars, radio talk show hosts, talk shows, and he is currently his own radio talk show host over at American Freedom Radio. And we're going to talk more about that as we get into the interview. He has written and produced and appeared in numerous television shows and documentaries, including 2 3-hour specials for CBS TV network, and an internationally acclaimed 5-part series, Ancient Mystery. So he is devoted to understanding ancient religions and their pervasive influence on world affairs today. Jordan, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Carrie. Always delighted to be on with you, a dear friend for many years. Thank you for calling me and asking me on.
Absolutely. And while I've got this going here, what I'm going to do is just make sure that we've got a good broadcast going on. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. And going to make sure that everyone can hear us. We always have to check the audio. So how's the audio? Please let me know in the chat.
Well, I can hear you just fine.
Excellent. Okay. And it looks good over here as well. So we are broadcasting. Always have to double check.
Yeah.
So,
especially with me.
Yeah. And if we get into some controversial subjects, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So it's really great to have you on the show, Jordan. And I know that you are doing your own show. Is it once a week? Because let's give you a plug right here.
Yeah, it's on Saturday night from 7 to 9, a 2-hour show on American Freedom Radio Network from 7 to 9. And of course, I have my own podcast, which is JordanMaxwellShow.com. I should say right now that there are different websites out there around the world that have my name on them, but they do not belong to me. Other people are just using my name to bring themselves business. So if you come across anything out there with my name on it, for instance, as JordanMaxwell.com, that doesn't belong to me. It's been taken from me. Then there's a Jordan Maxwell Institution, I think, or Jordan Maxwell Institute. There's quite a few different Jordan Maxwell sites out there that do not belong to me. So if you want to talk to me, it's JordanMaxwellShow.com.
Absolutely.
And on that JordanMaxwellShow.com, I might as well throw this into that on my JordanMaxwellShow.com, which is my site, my podcast site. There's also another website I have connected to that, and it's called the Research Society. And all it is just another website that I am uploading all of my research material from over the years. From many, many years ago, I've been saving it all. And so I'm uploading all of my videos, audio videos, documentaries, um, people, important people, and links and articles and pictures and research papers, all kinds of stuff on the Jordan Maxwell Research Society website. So if you want to join it, right there, go to Jordan Maxwell Show and join the Research Society. If you want to follow all of the stuff that I've been doing over the years, I'm uploading everything. So
that's absolutely wonderful. And I'm going to actually put your website on the screen for people to see here, if we can get it to come up. And here, just to make sure that people recognize your website and understand that this is your website, this certain website, so that people will be able to see visually the correct website. There is some confusion out there, I believe, once in a while. There has been some problems in the background that we will not be discussing here in detail, but basically suffice to say that jordanmaxwellshow.com is the correct website, and only that website, as well as his research website, which you can find if you go to this front page and you scroll down, you'll see it says New Research Society website, and I'm going to click over there for people to also see that front page, if we can manage to see if that'll come up here. In the meantime, Jordan, why don't you give us an update on where you're at right now? I know you're trying to find another place to live, and I'm not sure what your status is on that. But before we get into the whole world scene, which I definitely want to do with you, why don't you just update us on your personal situation? Are you okay? Do you have a place to live, and so on?
Well, for the past, actually, in point of fact, from 1989, which is 26 years ago, I've been homeless. I've not had a home since 1989. And so I've been kind of bouncing around from place to place. And then, of course, in the last 6 years, after my website was taken from me and everything I had was gone, and I was left penniless, then I really in trouble, because now I have to try and find a place to live and have no money to do it. And so I've been kind of living with friends from here to there, and if anybody has a room, I will stay with them until I have to leave, and then I have to go to somebody else. And so that's what I've been, that's what my life is like at 76 years old, is just going from one friend's house to another because I don't have a place. But I do, one thing I do have is a lot of dear friends who always are there for me. And so I'm staying with a very nice friend I've had for a long time, and so I'm comfortable for the moment. But I have to move. I have to go probably in the next week to 10 days. So I'm moving to another friend's house. So that's the way I live at 76 years old. Well, the golden years, well, not for me. I got to keep moving because I don't have a home. I don't have a life. I don't have anything. But that's one of the prices I've had to pay for being who I am and doing what I do, because I have a lot of enemies, and people are trying to make sure that I die soon and get off, leave the earth, because I seem to be a trouble for them. I've been called a troublemaker by some very big, important people in Los Angeles, and I hope the hell I am. I intend to be a troublemaker all the way to the day I leave here, because it's about time somebody tells the world what's really going on here. And so, but at the moment, I'm very comfortable, and where I'm going will be very nice too. So I'm not worried about it. I'm just letting you know what my situation has been and is now, and probably will still be, for some time to come. But
right.
Outside of that, everything seems to be going very good with my website. I had over 1 million coming to my podcast, and over, I think it was 900,000 downloads. Yeah, and it's incredible.
Yeah, it's great. That's wonderful.
And I'm not even advertising, and it got 900,000 downloads.
Absolutely. Well, you are very well loved around the world. And if there is anyone that does listen to this broadcast and has a way to help Jordan get into a more solid situation in terms of his living situation and can help him in any way, please do go to his website. Again, jordanmaxwellshow.com. And it is very important that you go to the correct Jordan Maxwell, show website and so on. And then listen to his show on Saturday nights, which is fabulous to know that you're doing this, Jordan. And what I'd like to do with you right now is today we had an announcement that the U.S. and Turkey were sending troops into Syria. And let's see, Turkey was doing this with U.S. backing, as they say. So can you talk a little bit about how you're viewing what's happening now in the Middle East and this escalation?
Well, my first love that I got started with some 55 years ago, back in 1959, at the age of 19 years old, I became very, very concerned and interested in theology. I had always been interested in religion, even as a kid, but I became very, very intently looking at where the different religions of the world have come from. And then that, of course, brought me into history. I'm fascinated with the march of human history. And then from there, you get into the hidden stuff behind the scenes, all the occult or hidden history of religions and governments, etc. And so for some 55 years, I've just been looking at the hidden history of the world. And I'm not interested in the classical history. I'm not interested in the normal history that the slaptrap that is, given to the kids in universities and schools. That's not, and that is very dry and listless. It has no salt. It has no interest in it. But when you get into the occult or hidden, the word occult simply means hidden. Nothing evil or bad about it, just means hidden. And so when you get into the hidden history that's been hidden from the human race, and it's all there if you just know where to look. The real story of what actually happened. Who was it? Napoleon said history is a lie that all of us have agreed to believe in. And so that's as far back as Napoleon they knew that. And so when you look at the hidden history of Europe, you begin to see how at least for 2,300 years, over 2,300 years, Europe has been dominated by the Roman Empire. First of all, under the Republic of Rome, with the coming of Rome, the fall of Greece. About 2,300 years ago, Rome came into being. And then, of course, with the fall of Rome in about the 5th century AD, then comes the Vatican, which is simply the Roman power of Europe reinventing itself. And this time, instead of the Roman Empire, the classical Roman Empire, you now have the Holy Roman Empire, and that's in the Vatican. And so what I'm saying is that for 2,300 years, Rome has dominated Europe. And for 2,300 years, Europe has dominated the world, dominated the whole planet. And so all roads lead to Rome. So when you go back into the history of the Roman Church and its foundations that were laid by the Roman Empire, and then begin to see how Rome is still in control today. And Washington, D.C., even the area we call Washington, D.C., before it became Washington, it was called Rome. And there's a whole story in that maybe I can get into for a couple of minutes because I have something interesting to tell you.
All right.
When I was, with the bottom line on all this, as I'm saying, unless you understand the Vatican, unless you understand 2,000 300 years of Roman thinking, Roman law, maritime admiralty, and civil law, unless you understand that what we live in today is at least 2,300 years old, and it works. And it's very, very evil. It's extraordinarily evil and brutal, but it works, and it's called the law. And you need to understand the law because it can put you into prison and ultimately take your life. So this is a very ancient system of law that's been around for a long time, and it's dominated Europe, and it's still dominating the world today. And of course, obviously, it's going to dominate the Middle East, and it really dominated it since about the 1300s with the Crusades, when Pope Innocent, which is a hell of a name for a pope, Pope Innocent sent his troops, the Knights Templar troops, into the Middle East to get rid of the Islamic occupation there and bring it back under Christian control, so to speak. That's the whole story too, the Crusades, and how that plays into Turkey today. And,
well, yes, and I do want to get into that. But before we go there, can we get, you said you had something about Washington, D.C. to tell us.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm not going to get into all of that stuff because, I'm not interested in all that, history of the Turkish and all that. No, we'll leave that for somebody else. But what I was going to tell you about the Washington, D.C. is when I was a child, my mother used to tell me, I don't know, she used to tell me all the time. She would say, your family is the Carroll family from Maryland, Washington, D.C. and Maryland area. And it's spelled Carroll, Carroll. And she had two uncles. And when I was a kid growing up, she had two uncles that lived in our town who were federal judges, had been appointed to the federal bench, and both had a last name of Carroll. Frank Carroll and John Carroll, and I met her uncles, as a little kid, but nonetheless they were federal judges with the last name of Carroll. So it rung a bell with me when my mother would tell me, "Remember, you're from the Carroll family. That's your ancestry, and from Maryland and Washington, D.C." Well, of course, as a kid, I didn't know anything about that, and I didn't care. And even as a teen, once in a while, she would mention that to me. Well, when she passed away, a day or so before she passed away, she told me, just remember, you are from the Carroll family. And so that stayed with me. For some reason, if somebody tells you something over and over, there must be a reason. And it wasn't until I was reading the book, and it's an extraordinarily important book called Rulers of Evil by Tupper Saucy. Tupper Saucy, and the book is called Rulers of Evil. In it, he breaks down the whole history of the founding of the United States, the founding of the U.S. Government, and how it happened, and who was involved, where the money came from, and the connections with the British East India Company, and all the dirty tricks going on with the British and the founding of America. It's a very important book called Rulers of Evil. And in that book, he brings out, much to my surprise, that the most important people that were involved with the Constitution, and especially with the Declaration of Independence, was the Carroll family from Virginia and Maryland, and from Washington, D.C., the Carroll family. That struck me immediately, the Carroll family. And then I find that one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence was a Carroll, and he was a Catholic. Of course, I was born and raised Catholic. All my family were Catholic, and so one of the signers of the Declaration was my family, the Carrolls. And so from that, I was amazed and started looking into that. And then I find later, with the movie, what was it called? National Treasure 1 and National Treasure 2, especially in National Treasure 1, the whole story opens up with a guy in a stagecoach and it says on the screen, John Carroll of the Carroll family. And I was shocked to see that in a movie. This is what my mother has been telling me all these years, that the Carrolls were very instrumental with the founding of the United States of America, and it was the Carroll family from Washington, D.C. area, which donated the 10 miles square to George Washington for the federal enclave to be set up with the government. So, because at the time, George Washington did not have a place for the federal government. It was all the colonies. And so the history books, now I'm looking at, the history books say that the Carroll family donated a 10-mile square part of their farm to George Washington, so that today, the 10-mile square we call the federal enclave, that's my family's property, the Carroll family.
Right, okay.
And it was shocking to me. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, why is it since I've been a child, I have been looking at government, secret conspiracies, all the dark dealings behind the scenes of founding America and what this country is really all about and who owns it and what all this dark stuff is going on in America today. I just think it's awful strange and suspicious that now I find out it was my family who actually owned the 10-mile square in Washington, D.C. called the Capitol today. It was the Carroll family. That's in a movie, National Treasure. That's in a book. And now, of course, look at the Declaration of Independence. And one of the larger names there in size is actually John Carroll family. So I'm just saying that my family was the Carroll family from Washington, D.C. I just fairly recently learned that, and I'm just amazed that they why I do what I do, trying
Absolutely.
to uncover all the dark stuff in government, religion. Now I can see it even better. Now I know what I'm doing.
Well, exactly. So we all, as souls, come in here with a purpose, and obviously yours was a very targeted purpose. So with that in mind, Jordan, can we talk about again what is going on with this move into Syria? And because I think a lot of people are concerned about that. What do you have to say about that?
Well, all right. Let me say it this way. I'm not really interested in world politics any longer because, as I said, I started out with totally into theology and religion, and then somehow or another, like my mother used to say, there's never been a religion on the earth that wasn't political. There's never been a politics on the earth that wasn't religious. And so, if you're looking at politics, you're going to end up looking at religion. Or if you're a theologian, you're going to end up talking politics. So it's one and the same thing. It's just two hands on the same body. And this is why there's always two sides to every story.
Okay, well then I guess you're not going to be able to avoid the question,
Well, the reason why I don't want to directly to get into the subject is because I'm not really familiar with that subject at all. I haven't really looked at it, and it's not really important to my work and to my person, to whom I am. I'm more interested in the dark, secret stuff going on behind the scenes of world government and world religion, and the Mickey Mouse stuff of the day is not of any real importance to me. And that's
all right. Well, let's take
it.
a longer view then. The takeover of the Middle East is a targeted takeover, and it does involve absolutely Rome, and there's also the Khazarian element that gets involved here, as well as the Stargates, which are in Syria, Iraq, and other parts of the Middle East, including Israel, by the way. Yeah. And so I don't know what area you want to delve into with regard to this, but in taking the longer view, we've got a presidential election coming up. I'm sure people want to know what you think about that situation. Some people think that this war scenario is going to sort of steer things in one direction or another. Russia is getting involved, and Putin has been operating in a very interesting capacity. So, what do you have to say about all of that?
Well, again, I really don't have much to say about the political, because so much of what we see today on television and in the news about what's going on politically through not only the Middle East but around the world is nothing more than cannon fodder stuff for us to entertain us with. I know, I don't suspect, I know that the real story is really much worse than what we are being told.
Okay, well then what's the real story?
Well, the real story is that there has been for thousands of years, going all the way back at least 4,000 years ago, or better, but I can take it back 4,000 years, that there is a movement on the earth, a political, religious movement on the earth to own the human race and to own the earth, the very ground that you stand on. Somebody owns it. And that, and the idea was, as far back as 4,000 years ago, before the Grecian Empire, the concept was developed on how to do banking, how to own and control land and people, and the reproduction of people. And it gets to be very, very fascinating stuff when you begin to see how in the Old Testament it tells us that from dust we are, to dust we shall return, meaning that our bodies, which scientifically is true, scientifically proven, our bodies mimic the earth we live on. The same amount of iron that's in the earth is in your body. The same amount of nickel or carbon or any other materials that are on the earth, that same amount percentage is in your physical body. And so obviously we come from the earth. Well, that's why we talk about the earth being our mother, Mother Earth, Mother Nature. And this is why if you're a Christian and you want to be born again, then you have to go out into water and be baptized and go underwater and come out of the water. Why? Because when you were born, your mother's water broke and you came out to life. And so if you're going to be born again, then you have to go back out into Mother Nature, Mother Earth's water, and be born again. So the concept that the human being has come from the earth, and that the minerals in the earth is exactly the same amount in your body, now it opens up a whole new concept that people have never thought of before, because in the Jewish scriptures, that's the Old Testament, is talking about from the earth you've come, into the earth you go back. So when you die, you don't go into heaven with the sun, you go into the ground with the earth. So humans are of the earth, and therefore 4,000 years ago or more, it was understood that whoever owns a piece of earth owns whoever's living on it. And so that was the way it was in the ancient world. The king that owned the country and ran the country, he actually owns the cattle, he owns the livestock, and he owns the people on it. And it became a system whereby the government owns the people, period. They own the cattle, they own the mountains, they own the flowers, they own the trees, and they own you. And you don't think so? Once you get into maritime admiralty law and go back into Vatican canon law, you begin to see that all humans were viewed to be possessions of the government under which they live. And your children are their possession. You are their possession, and they own you. They own your body. Why? Because you go back into the earth when you leave here. And so you came from the earth to and you go back to it. So now it opens up a whole new question about, well, wait a minute, what is government and what is commerce? What commerce is referred to in law dictionaries as sex. The whole idea of sex is to reproduce more commerce, more business. So the more people that are being born, it's commerce, it's business. And business for who? Business for the people who own the product. That's why you have to get a marriage license when you're getting married, because it's a piece of business. You're bringing a new product. You got two corporations that are producing a new product, and it's coming from the earth. So I'm just saying that once you begin to get into the really dark side of this stuff, now it brings into the picture that the major governments of the world that own the human bodies that are living in that country are now vying for power, like General Motors does over Ford Motor Company, and Volkswagen over BMW. They're vying for power now. They want more people coming in and want more people in their possession.
Okay, so, Jordan, how do you look at the refugee situation from that perspective then?
Well, I think it's probably, it's partial politics and partial, I think mostly the refugee situation is commerce. But there's also going to have to be war and violence involved in this, and politics. In relation to the immigration stuff in America, I think it's very simple. Anybody coming into this country, well, you got to go back and start. I'd have to go all the way back to 1870s, when the United States of America, as it was founded in 1776, no longer existed. This is the subject a lot of people are now finally beginning to wake up to. Back as far back as 1870s, the United States of America. This is right after the Civil War. The United States of America, as it was purposed in 1770s, did no longer exist. There have been a great civil war in America, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people murdered on both sides of the conflict. So you cannot have a major war like the Civil War in one country, and then after it's over, call the country the United States. It wasn't united. We just killed half of each other. There's nothing but bloodshed everywhere, so it's not united. Well, but the people are still here, the country's still here, so what are you going to do about it? Well, they decided, instead of having a United States of America that's gone, we're not united, the idea was hatched by a handful of men, the wealthy, got together and decided what we will do is we'll form a company, a corporation, and it will be a privately owned company. We'll call it the United States Company, the United States Corporation, under corporate law. Well, if you're having a country that's now a corporation under corporate law, well, of course, corporate law means you have to have a president. So we got a president. Then, well, corporate law says you have to have a vice president and a secretary treasurer. So we got both of them. So today, the United States is not the United States of America. United States is a corporation, a company like Sears and General Motors and Exxon. It's just a company. It's a corporation.
Okay, well, how do you think that the global collateral accounts fits into that scenario?
That's right. So that's where I'm going. So now, if the United States, what we think is the United States federal government, no, it's the United States company, corporation, and it's headquartered in Washington, D.C., but it's a company. Okay, that being the case, we know that big corporations have what they call corporate takeovers. And many times they're hostile corporate takeovers. One country, one corporation taking over another one because one company is richer and wealthier than another one. Or like today, one country like the U.S. is stronger politically and militarily, taking over another corporation, another company. It's just business, period. That's all marriage is. That's all anything going on between humans is business. For instance, if I see you out with a guy and I tell you the next day, I said, Kerry, you know that guy you were out with last night? That's bad company. He's bad company. And you say to me, mind your own business. And then I find out that you're going to get married. He's going to be your partner. What are you talking about? Partner, business, company? It's business. This is why you have to have a license if you're going to get married. Why? Because it's business. Sure. If it doesn't work out, I mean, it may be monkey business, but it's business. And if it don't work out, you're not going to God, you're going to court. Bring your car and your house and everything you own, because this is nothing but business.
Absolutely.
And so once you understand the government is a business, The people are security on the stock exchange. Every U.S. citizen in this country has his body. I don't care if the baby being born. Your body is on the New York Stock Exchange. You are a stock. This is why if your son's getting married and the girl is marrying is very wealthy, we say, well, she's a good stock. Why? Is he marrying a cow? No, because we are stock. We are stock in a corporation. Once you understand how the big governments are actually corporations and business is in business for hostile takeovers, then you begin looking at, oh, I see why England and America are now in the Middle East and doing all this crap they're doing. Why? Because there's a lot of money there. We're talking oil. We're talking natural resources. And we're also talking about taking over a particular area of the world that's very volatile and very important, because that's why Israel is so important today in political affairs, is because, not because it's holy. There's nothing holy in Israel. There ain't never been anything holy in Israel. The only thing holy in Israel are the stories. The stories are full of holes. But the reason why Israel is important is because it's in the middle of the earth. If you go from the furthest part of the north to Russia and draw a line all the way down to the Ivory Coast of Africa, then from Scotland and Ireland all the way down to India, you cross the great portion of the earth, and in the middle where it crisscrosses is Jerusalem. So Jerusalem is in the middle of world business, period.
It's well, okay, yes. It's apparently where also where the ley lines and the vortexes cross.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you get control of them, then you can control what happens in the planet, right?
Well, of course, you can control the flow of money and goods and politics and religion, and and that's why Jerusalem's so important. It's not because the Lord's there. No, money is there. Political power sits there in the Middle East, and that's why, I was in business with Zachariah Sitchin. I just didn't know him. I was in business with him, and I used to travel with him, and we would talk about these kind of things privately. And he said that's why Jerusalem is so important. It's in the middle of business, the world business. And therefore, if you're going to control world business as an empire, you might want to take over Israel and call that place a state. Remember, in America, we have 50 states. There's the California state and the state of California. There's 2 states in our union, 2 states in every state. There's New York state and the state of New York. There's Alabama state and the state of Alabama. State of is totally different than the name of the state. California state is the state, but state of California is the federal government operating inside of California. That's called the state of. So therefore, you have a country called Israel, but it's called the state of Israel. Most people have no idea in the world why it's called the state of Israel. Well, we now know why we call it the state of California and the state of New York. Well, it's the same for the state of Israel. America has got a very big piece of the action to upset and to control that area of the world with the oil, all the natural resources, but especially the Center for International Trade and Business in Israel. So don't look at Israel as holy Israel. There's nothing holy there. We're talking business, politics, and international government vying for power. So when I hear about Turkey doing this or America's backing Turkey to do it, I don't care about that. It's irrelevant to me. I know the bigger picture. The big picture is what's coming on the entire inhabited earth very soon. And it deals with a whole realm of problems that the earth and the human race have that we don't even know we got yet. That hasn't been broken to us yet. Something far, far bigger has been happening for a long time, all the way going back to the founding of the Communist Party back in the Soviet Union, back in Russia in the 1914s. And people were talking about it coming as far back in the 1880s, 1870s. So I'm just saying that what's going on the planet today is very old, very well financed. and being totally controlled by secret societies, very powerful people behind the scenes are maneuvering nations and maneuvering power. So ultimately, very soon, they will finally have control. They'll finally have achieved their objective of absolute, total, despotic, fascist power over the entire globe, over the entire earth. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at what happened in Nazi Germany being on the earth, period, everywhere. There will be it's going to be a tyranny you will not believe, and it's coming soon. But this has been going on, for, as I said, for at least 4,000 years. I've watched the march of world history, and watching how this whole concept of humans and the earth as possessions by the powerful people behind the scenes. George Carlin said it in a humorous way. You know, it's a big club and you ain't in it. But the bottom line is that we are in this country being led into a despotic tyranny the world has never seen before. It's coming. It's on its way. Once it's finally locked down, and believe me, it's very soon, very close, the entire earth will be under a computer. The entire earth will be computerized. There won't be, now we're even talking, governments are even talking about transhumanism. Well, hell, the Russians, before the Russian Revolution, going back to Ivan Pavlov, and A.R. Luria and Ivan Pavlov were working on the Pavlovian dog. That was part of the dehumanization of the world. And so we go all the way back to 1910, 1914, where they were now trying to understand how to control the human mind, how to control the human reflexes, how to control the human race. And
Absolutely.
today, incidentally, a part of this is the genetically modified foods. You need to understand the genetically modified. This thing goes all the way back thousands of years, this concept of genetically modifying. It's even in the Bible, how the extraterrestrials, according to the Vatican sources, I'm just reading what the Vatican is saying about the Bible, they're talking about the extraterrestrial sources who modified the wheat and modified the grains, and consequently they modified the human race. And so today, genetically modifying foods is part of something far bigger that they haven't told you about, and that is the genetically modifying the whole human race. So it's not because they're looking to make more food for the people. No, genetically modifying humans. It's called transhumanism.
Yes,
it's
yes,
a bigger
absolutely.
story yet. You need to look at this thing. It's getting very, very scary now.
Okay, absolutely. Well, I agree, and we've been aware of this actually for a while. Jordan, can you talk about what you think Russia's role is at this time? Because it does appear that Putin is at times being a voice of reason when the superpowers are about to go to war. And yet you talk about Russia and the U.S. being two sides of the same bird. So
Yeah,
do you want to talk about that
It's true. It's I don't know. A lot of people seem to have forgotten over a period of time. Putin was the head of the KGB. I don't know what that tells you. At one time, he was head of KGB. This guy is not stupid, and he's a politician extraordinaire. So he knows exactly how to position himself and how to say things correctly. Why? Because he was trained in knowing how to do that. But I would suggest you need to go back and look at Putin as a KGB a master. So the only thing I think was interesting is I think, if I'm not mistaken, Putin said if Hillary Clinton gets in, we are going to attack America. If I'm not mistaken, that's what he said. If you let Hillary Clinton become president, Russia is going to feel the necessity for a first strike, and we will attack America. I know why he's saying that.
Okay, why is he saying that?
Well, he doesn't want her in, and he wants to scare the people to get away from her and not vote for her. Why?
Well,
Because
I'm not sure that's out in the public that much. Where did you hear that and when?
on the web, it was a speech he was giving, and they were translating into English.
Was it how recently?
Oh, I don't know, within the last month and a half, 6 weeks.
All right, very interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And he said if you elect Hillary Clinton, Russia might have to attack America. We've had enough of this bull. So, but the bottom line is, all I see is infighting between secret societies.
Sure.
And,
well, can you talk about, I mean, you're aware of the secret space program, you're aware of the ET visitation. You've even had some interactions yourself along those lines.
You're right.
And so have you had anything more recently happen to you in this regard?
No, for some reason, for me, the really extraordinary experiences that I have had, and I've had 36 of them. I've written them down because I'm getting old and can't remember my name half the time. But I've been writing them down so I can remember these extraordinary experiences and one-on-one experiences with the other world, with the ETs, etc. But nothing here lately. But my gut feeling is something is brewing. So it's a calm before the storm. Something far, far bigger than 9/11. Something far, far bigger. Talking about World War II. I think it's going to be bigger. Something big is being put together on the earth in its last and final stage. And I go back to that letter that Albert Pike wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini. A lot of people badmouth that idea because I don't know if you've ever heard of the letter that Albert Pike wrote back in 1871 to Giuseppe Mazzini in Italy, talking about the 3 world wars that were going to be planned and how they were going to start, how they're going to end. As a matter of fact, there's a book written called Plans for Permanent Peace. The book is called Plans for Permanent Peace. It's been out of print for years. It was written back in 1937 to 38 by a Dr. Hans Heimann at the Rutgers University. It's the Rutgers University print. And it talked about, and it's a fascinating book where he talks about the Second World War is going to be between Germany and the Allies. This is in 37, 38 when it's published and printed. And he's already talking about a Second World War. And then he talks about how the war will be ended, and when the war is ended, there'll be what's going to happen afterwards. There's going to be a whole new plan for personal peace and peace for the world. And then there's like 5 different big fold-out maps in the book where he outlines how the entire earth will be financed behind the scenes. The same people who are financing the First World War are financing the Second World War, and he's talking about the Second World War in 37 before it even starts. And he's saying that after that, the Second World War, here's what the banking families of the world are going to do. But this is from Rutgers University, a professor there of economics.
Well, actually, the Albert Pike, I'm looking at that, and it does talk about a Third World War. Yeah. It talks about, actually, I can read it right here, just a small excerpt. It's saying, caused by the agent tour of the Illuminati between political Zionists and the world leaders of Islamic world. And basically, it has to be in such a way that the Muslim Arabic world and political Zionism, state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. So meanwhile, other nations will be divided and undergo a lot of exhaustion, spiritual, economic, etc. So it is written here. It's quoted. I've got the link. I just put it in the chat for people. So what are you saying about that? I mean, are you?
I'm saying that there's a lot of people downplaying that. A lot of liberals and communists are all saying, "Oh, it's a bunch of bull." That it doesn't say that at all, and there never was a letter, and all kinds of stuff to keep you from looking at that letter. But I'm saying, I don't care who wrote the letter. I don't care if it was written 2 weeks ago. The problem is that read the letter, read what it says, and that's exactly what's happening today. No matter who wrote it, no matter when it was written, that's what's happening today. A third world war is being brewed slowly but surely, and it's everything that that letter said was going to happen is exactly what's happening today. It says that all the religions of the world will fall apart. The people won't know where to turn their religious beliefs. That's what's happening today. And that there's going to be a horrible, terrible war. It says it in the most bloody turmoil, I think the word is. So I know that something very big like that's happening. Now, when you take that in consideration, with the European governments openly asking for Muslims to come in, bring your guns, bring your knives, bring all of your gangs, everybody come on over, and America's opening the doors. And if you don't have any guns, hell, we'll get you some guns, and come on over, bring all the gangs you can, all the riffraff, all the mentally deranged murderers and stupid, all this incredible human crap. Come on in, bring your guns, bring your swords, and come on in and rape whoever you want, do whatever the hell you please. Everything is all open borders.
Well, right, okay.
Why? Somebody wants a world conflagration.
Absolutely, they want chaos. Isn't that right? I mean, we're talking about getting order out of chaos. So ultimately, they want to create chaos.
That's exactly my point. Somebody very powerful is actually purposely causing a chaos to come on the earth, and they know what they're doing. It's very well planned. It's called politics. And so somebody has the power to tell the German government, to tell the British government, to tell the US government, here's what you will do. We're not asking you, we're not advising you, here's what you will do. Open your borders and let everybody come in, and if these dummies don't have guns, give them the guns. If they don't have knives, and then give them the knives. Give them whatever they need. Why? Because we are going to rape the human race, period. Period. End of sentence. So somebody's very powerful, pulling the strings behind world government, preparing us for a world catastrophe, which is going to also change the whole face of humanity. It's going to be a whole new game on the earth. And I think it's not of this world. I think whoever's doing this has the power to do it, and that's not human. You can't do that with humans, but somebody has the power to make the humans like Angela Merkel in Germany, openly, premeditatedly opening the doors and saying, bring your guns, bring your gangs, come on in, rape anybody you want. It's all open house. And if you don't have the money, we'll send you the money to get here. Somebody is planning a major chaos to bring a new world order, but that new world order is not going to be anything like what Adolf Hitler dreamed up. It's going to be a hell of a lot worse. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not worried
I appreciate that.
and one country to another in the Middle East. I'm worrying about what's coming on the entire human family. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay, very good. Well, I think you're on the right track there, Jordan, as usual. But what can you talk about what you think is going to happen? Have you had any, let's say, contacts, back channel contacts, warning you, for example, to go and live in a certain place, to prepare yourself in any way, that sort of thing?
No, but I did. I have been in touch with, I don't know if I've ever told you personally, in touch with some very powerful people in Washington, D.C. that you would never know, that you'd never believe I know. And they have said to me, look, we are not all for what's going on, but there's no possible way we can do anything. The most important people in Washington, D.C. today are nothing but servants of a very powerful presence somewhere that's guiding Washington, D.C. It has no power of its own to do anything. We are merely doing what we're being told to do. And so I've been told this by politicians and by military people. We're not happy about what's going on. We're not stupid, and we know where it's going to go. But there's nothing we can do about it, Jordan. Nothing. We cannot do anything. The military cannot do anything about it. Our president can't do anything about it. Our government cannot do anything about to stop and save America or the world, period.
Okay.
Somebody's in control, and I'm
absolutely
telling you, they're not human.
I hear you. However, you know, we are going to fight the good fight, and there are some what we call white hats behind the scene in military, as well as.
Right. Yeah, I think so, and that's why I'm doing what I do. You know?
All right. So, but I still want to get back to this question. I'm really curious what you have to say about it. A lot of people agree with you. Everything's run by money, but they make a really big deal about what are called the global collateral accounts, having money and saying that it's going to be, you know, steered towards the people and all of this sort of thing.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Can you talk about that?
Yes. Yeah, I would be happy to talk about that. I have never heard more bull and BS than that. I've heard so many people talk about this incredible bunch of bull about the money's going to be revalued, and you're going to, you know, you can buy the dong and all these different currencies from the Middle East, and they're going to be revalued. Nothing could be further from the truth. Let me tell you what's happening. Anytime you overthrow a government, the money that government printed is worthless. Go out and try buying and dealing and buying with Confederate money. Confederate money is great to look at, great to hold as a souvenir, but it's worthless. It's just worthless in your hand. It's Confederate money. We don't use it anymore. Well, when Iraq was overthrown by the coup d'etat, and it was its money is no longer of any value. Well, obviously, all countries have huge surpluses of real, and new money, new printed money. So when the old money gets too torn, they reissue new money in its place. Well, there's in Iraq and those areas in the Middle East have huge surpluses of new money stored in warehouses in their normal business. Well, when the government has taken over, all that warehouse full of the new money is worthless, as the paper's written on. But the CIA is a lot of things, but stupid ain't one of them. And somebody in NSA or CIA, one of these bright guys, decided, wait a minute, why don't we take all of this money, instead of burning it and using it for toilet paper, why don't we pack it all up and send it back to America and sell it to the poor Americans, because they will buy anything. You tell them anything, they'll buy it. And tell them that we're going to revalue the money, and then if they pay $1 for this bill, it's going to be worth $100 soon. And so everybody in America is now buying the old bills, which are brand new, but they're from a country that's been overthrown, and they're hoping that it's going to be revalued and they're going to make millions. Nothing can be further from the truth. It's a CIA operation to make a lot of money off of gullible Americans who are putting their money into some old, old bills like the Confederate money, and it's overwhelmingly obvious. It's not gonna. They're not gonna be. Look at, if there's gonna be a reevaluation, the government would be holding the money. They're giving it to Joe Sixpack and his wife in Oklahoma. They keep it to themselves. No, they're selling it to Joe Sixpack because they know the paper is worthless. But the people, like gambling. They can't make it to Vegas. Well, they can gamble here. Buy $1,000 worth of Iranian money, and you're going to be worth $40 million. And then they laugh at you when you go away, knowing that's old. That paper money is worthless as the government it was printed under. It's over. So
okay,
if you want to invest in money that's going to be revalued, you better go back and do your homework. They're not selling anything of any value to you. If it was valuable, the government would keep it. Period.
Okay.
Lunacy.
So what I want to ask you, Jordan, is, there's a lot of talk nowadays also about bonds, old bonds that are coming up, and people are even approaching me with this information, saying, they've got for example, some people think that Peruvian bonds right now are worth something. And yet I talk to other people like George Green, and they say, no, Peru is bankrupt and therefore the bonds are worthless.
That's right.
So what is going on with all of this? Do you know anything?
All of this, you're talking now, on one hand, we talk about the international bankers. We're talking about the international cartels, you know, the one that George Carlin says is a big club and you ain't in it. So we're talking about the international banking cartels of the world and how they're raping the human race. Well, bonds and buying countries' money, we're talking money, we're talking commerce. The entire world commercial system is a fraud, period. So you can go out and buy all the bonds you want, buy all the paper money you want, and think you're doing something clever. But the bottom line at the end of the day is the Illuminati masters over the world government and over world finance are a lot smarter than you are, and they're selling you junk. They were going to burn it and use it for toilet paper, but they thought, no, let's sell it to the Americans and make a quick buck on the Americans. So if you're buying bonds, you're buying old money from other countries, anything you're doing in commerce, you better back up and understand the Illuminati masters who own this world and own this country and own your body are the manipulators behind international banking, and that's all bullshit. It's all totally a lie to get money out of you.
Okay, and what about the state of the gold, supposed, gold in the Philippines, the gold that was underneath one of the Twin Towers, are actually in the building next door, I guess, and disappeared. So what is the significance of gold from an esoteric point of view in your eyes?
Well, gold is represented by the sun. The sun is golden. Silver, represented by the moon. The moon is silver. So the silver and gold is important to the human creature on the earth because the sun and the moon. And gold and silver have become important all the way back into the most ancient days. So, but today, you're right, Philippines themselves are sitting on what I would think is a bomb getting ready to go off in the Philippines. That's my opinion. It's just an opinion. But we know China is all around the waters of the Philippines. And I've been told by my friends who live in the Philippines that there's U.S. is sending enormous amounts of armaments and digging foxholes and setting up pillboxes and setting up all kinds of cannon installations all around the Philippines and all kinds of military. I'm being told by people who have business and corporations in the Philippines. I talked to them, they said there's huge amounts of ships from America coming with all kinds of military materials. The Air Force is lining up airfields there. All of it is telling you there's a war coming. Both sides, and China is now all lined up. I've talked with people who were out on a boat, and they said that you could see out past the 12 or whatever it is, the 20-mile limit, you can see all of these Chinese ships lining up. They're not in Philippine waters, but they're just outside the international border for the Philippine waters, and they're all lining up. It looks like all the way from one side to the other are Chinese warships, while at the same time American warships are bringing in all kinds of cannons and pillboxes and all kinds of installations they're digging. It looks like there's going to be one hell of a conflagration in the Philippines. Why? Because that is a very strategic spot on the earth. A lot of gold was being dealt there. A lot of gold is buried there, but it's also very strategically placed. You knock over the Philippines, if China knocks over the Philippines, then the next stop on the way is Hawaiian Islands, and don't think China won't do it. If they knock over the Philippines and America loses, then they're coming for Hawaii, and they might as well. If they come in for Hawaii, you might as well come on into America, because you now stepped on America. You touch a Hawaiian, that's a state. Now you've got international war. So all I'm saying is that something big is going on, and probably George Green would know more about that privately than any of us would. But I'm telling you, Philippines are sitting on a bomb. They're sitting on something that's getting ready to blow.
Okay.
It's scary.
All right.
I had a military guy at one of the conferences that you and I were at the Hilton Hotel, and I think you saw me with him. But he was telling me, this is a very highly rated military guy stopped me, and he said, "We're not everybody. Not everybody in the military is for this new world order. Not everybody is all for it. We know what's going on. We see what's happening." But there's nothing the military can do. There's nothing the president can do. There's nothing anyone's going to do. We will have this no matter what you think. Why? Because there's something going on that's bigger than all of us. And that's why I think that it has nothing to do with humans. I think we are having extraterrestrial visitations here for a long time, and they've been manipulating us for a long time. They are the ultimate power, and that's why governments know. I mean, why do you think Spielberg is making these movies? And there's all kinds of sci-fi movies coming out, into the world, and all that kind of stuff. Hollywood is telling you something. So I think the human race is coming up against something that is not of this world. And
there's no doubt about it. There is, you know, an ancient war of the worlds going on, and and we know that some of the players are obviously reptilians, some are Dracos, different races, the Greys, certain Greys, apparently from what's called the Regalian area of Orion, and many others. There are good guys, though, and bad guys. There are also positive ETs, and you yourself have dealt with those, haven't you?
Yeah, I've actually had one-on-one. Yeah, and I could tell you a lot of other things that would blow your mind that very famous people you know personally have not told you the rest of the story that they know.
Okay.
So
well, why don't you share it with us? Go ahead.
So no, but I'm just saying that there are some people around you and me that are intimately connected to this dark side of otherworld intelligences, otherworld life forms here that are manipulating the human race, and they are the people who are in power. And that's why that's why institutions like the United States federal government cannot do anything about it, because it's not human. The United States, you know, the industrial military complex knows they are in charge of all the Mickey Mouse wars going on around the world. They make a lot of money, and Hollywood is their entertainment source for the entertainment, you know, for the military industrial complex. The entertainment section is called Hollywood. But there is ultimately a darker force that's been on the earth from God knows when, that is not of this world. And it is guiding the destiny of the human race, and there's nothing we can do about it. Somebody else has an agenda, and it's not pretty, and it's not for us. So
okay, well, I mean, I don't, you know, I appreciate what you're saying, Jordan. I don't see us as powerless as all that. You know, we wouldn't be alive at this time if there wasn't, you know, a battle to be fought.
You're probably right. It's just that I've been looking at the dark side for some 55 years and waiting for something to happen, and nothing has happened. All I see with my eyes is nothing but evil, corrupt, filthy, degenerate, murderous, bloodshedding. You know, seems to be doing just fine nowadays. Everything that seems to be doing just great.
I want to ask you something. What did you think about the Brexit situation?
Well, I'm not really, I don't know. Again, that has to do with international monetary, international finance. Again, that goes back to international bankers. Who knows? Maybe the Knights Templars, who we call the international bankers, are probably pulling some new trick in preparation for something they're going to do soon. I don't know.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of symbolism. I would think you would have studied, you know, the history in England, etc. And we're also talking about, you know, as you say, the Knights Templar, but we're also talking about, you know, even going back to King Arthur in the days of the Round Table, and
yeah,
and
you know, I get questions about King Arthur. I mean, it's just my opinion, but I've got questions about that. I don't think there ever was a King Arthur, and the reason why. Because the story is connected to the Knights Templars. In the Bible says in the New Testament, Jesus is our King. Of course, he's King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So Jesus is our King. And then the book of, I think it's Ephesians, where the Apostle Paul said, Jesus is our King, and He is the author of our faith, and He's the author of our destiny, and the author of our faith. And so you put the two of them together. Jesus is King of Kings, and He's the author of our faith. Therefore, He's the King author. And He has 12, and He has the knights at the round table. How many knights at the round table? 12, of course. The table is round because your watch is round, and there are 12 numbers on your watch, which is the 12 hours of the day.
Well, there's also 12 astrological symbols.
That's right.
Well, what about the Holy Grail and the symbolism there?
The Holy Grail is actually called Krator. I think it's Krator, Krator. It's a constellation in the heavens, and it's somewhere near Virgo. It's called Krator, and the Krator constellation is a crown. No, that's different. It's a cup, and it's called the Krator constellation, and it's a cup. And the ancient peoples, and especially in the Middle Ages and the Dark Ages also, the Krator was referred to as the Holy Grail, the Holy Cup.
I believe it has to do with the bloodlines.
Yeah, of course it does. But of course, the Grail is a cup in which the wine,
the blood is
blood is held. So we're talking about a symbol. We're talking about a metaphor. It's a cup. Is the Krator constellation in the sky, which is said to be a holy cup or Holy Grail. Then when you get to watch Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, you see that Jesus says in the Bible, he's talking to Peter, and he says to Peter, upon you, Peter, upon this rock I shall build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. This is Jesus talking to Peter. He says, upon this rock I shall build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. The word rock is Petra. Look it up in Greek. The word is Petra. So it's having Jesus saying, upon this Petra I will build my church. Well, in the Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, where did they end up? They ended up in Petra.
Absolutely.
And so I'm saying Spielberg is a lot of things, but stupid isn't one of them. And he knows that the very foundation of what we call Christianity is Sabanism. Sabanism. You've heard of the Queen of Sheba? No, not Sheba, mistranslation. Queen of Seba, the Sebians. The Sebians are the people who gave us astrology. Astrological symbols come from the Sebians around what we call around that area that we call what's the name of that place again? Petra.
Oh, Petra. Yeah,
so
I've been
Indiana
to Petra.
Jones, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas know what they're talking about. Incidentally, when Steven Spielberg and George Lucas made the Raiders of the Lost Ark, you've got to go back and think about it for the first time. Don't look at it as a wonderful movie. Look at it with knowing Steven Spielberg and Lucas are not stupid, and they're telling you something. What happened in Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark? Well, the United States commissions Indiana Jones to go find the Jewish Ark of the Covenant. Well, where does Indiana Jones, because he's the only one who would really know, where does he go first to look for the lost Ark of the Covenant of the Hebrew? He goes to Tibet. Go back and think about that. Why does Indiana Jones go to Tibet? Well, there's a damn good reason. If you're Spielberg, you know what the reason is. You're playing with the public. So Indiana Jones goes to Tibet. And why is he going to Tibet? Well, first of all, when he gets there, he finds out the Nazis are there. Because the Nazis are like, the Nazis are not stupid either. And so if you're going to find the lost Ark of the Covenant, you better go to Tibet first. And why are they in Tibet looking for the lost Ark of the Jews? Is because the whole story is Tibetan. It has nothing to do with being Jewish, Christian, or religious at all. The entire story of the lost Ark and the Ark of the Covenant is a story. You need to understand where it came from. So after they find that little crystal that will now tell them where the lost Ark is, Both the Nazis and the Indiana Jones have now got the little crystal that they can find the lost ark of the Hebrews. Where does Indiana Jones and the Nazis go? To the Holy Land? No, there ain't nothing holy in the Holy Land. Go back and watch it. They go to Egypt, and they find the damn thing in Egypt, not in the Holy Land.
Well, but the ark is this is a Stargate.
Well, that's different. Now we're talking about something totally different. I'm talking about what the millions of people in Christianity and Judaism all believe is an Ark of the Covenant.
All right.
Actually, no, there is no Ark of the Covenant. It was called the Ark of the Contract. And that's why Indiana Jones goes to Egypt, because it's an Egyptian Ark. That's on my website, research website. Go to my Jordan Maxwell show. Go join my research website. I got all the pictures, all the documents showing the lost Ark of the Covenant is not a Jewish symbol at all. The Jews borrowed that. It's like everything else they borrowed. It's an Egyptian symbol. The Egyptians had something called the Ark of the Contract. Well, the contract is a covenant. Well, then the Jews call it the Ark of the Covenant. No, it's an Ark of the Contract. Indiana Jones knows at least that much. He goes to Egypt to find it. What I'm telling you is that our religions, all three, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, are based on a far more ancient religion. It's called Hinduism. And if you don't understand Hinduism, you're not going to understand Christianity, Judaism, or Islam, because all three are based on Hinduism. And where is the home of Hinduism if it isn't in Tibet? So I'm trying to tell you that there's a bigger religious political story here that people have no idea in the world about. They're buying into all this nonsensical crap about the holiness of Jerusalem and the holiness of there's nothing holy about any of this. All three religions were founded by secret societies, fraternal orders, finance, organized and directed. I got to tell you, I don't believe for a minute that Muhammad ever lived. I think that is another symbolic metaphor for somebody who never lived. When you start doing your homework for the first time and pull the scales off your eyes and look at the way the world has really run and organized, you will find out Christianity, Judaism, and the Mohammed religion all come from Hinduism. It's from India. And so all three of our major religions say that their father was from Abraham. They all trace their lives and their religion back to Abraham. There was no Abraham. It's a story. He never existed. They go back to Hindu. Oh, there it is. There's Abraham in the Hindu religion. And it's called Brahma. And you put an A in front of it, it comes with Abram. And that was Abraham's name, was Abram. In the Old Testament, God changes his name to Abraham. No, it was Abram. And Abram is Abram. And the Brahmins say that they are God's chosen people. Brahmins are God's chosen people. And they have a goddess. The Brahmins have a goddess named Sarah. So now you got Abraham and Sarah. And Sarah Swazi is the goddess. So now you've got Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You have Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Osiris, Isis, Horus, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. The entire monstrosity of world religion is a lie, is a deception. It was dreamt up by some people a long time ago, back as far back as in Egypt and in India. And I'm just telling you, all of this is now being used today as a tool to bring about chaos, which will then eventually give us a new world order. Religion is nothing more than a tool in the hands of the international bankers, and you better look at all three major religions and their connections to the Knights Templars in the Vatican. The Vatican is up to its throat with founding religions secretly. And it's an incredible story of betrayal of the human race. I'm just telling you,
yes,
somebody else is in charge of this earth, and it's not human.
Okay, and can you also talk about what is Shambhala? Are you aware of this, and can you talk about that?
Well, Shambhala is supposedly, I think it's interesting that originally in the United States, back in the 1770s, when it was founded, the country was being founded, the president had a presidential retreat, and the presidential retreat for George Washington and the others who followed him was called Shambhala. Why? Well, because they realized that the founding of their country was based on the British East India Company. It was based on the three major religions, are based on Hinduism. So naturally, the presidential retreat would also have to do with Hinduism. It was called Shambhala. Today, of course, Shambhala supposedly is now being reinvented for us today, is talking about the people living under the earth, the inner earth people, and supposedly the Nazis were involved with the inner earth people. And who the hell knows? There might be something to that. There very well might be something to the fact that there are civilizations that have been here hundreds of thousands or thousands of years ago, living under the earth. We know that there are huge caverns that are man-made under the earth. We know that. We've been told that the military in the United States, and God knows probably the rest of the world, are building underground tunnels. We know that the Nevada is filled with underground tunnels. You can go out at night to the telephone post out by Area 51. I've done it many times. You go out at night, and there are these big telephone posts, and you go in and lean up against the post, put your ear to the post up at Area 51, and you can hear all kinds of noise, like trains and buses, and
sure.
You can hear it.
Yeah, that's great.
So I was telling you, something's going on under the earth big time at Area 51.
Absolutely. Well, and going much further than that, Idaho, Colorado, etc. So
maybe going all over the earth. For hell, who knows?
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the things is interesting about that Shambhala is a stargate. It is an opening into inner Earth, in theory, and it is located in the Himalaya. And of course, China took over that area of Tibet.
We go back to Hindu,
right? Okay.
We're talking about the Hindu territory. That's when India. North India, Himalayas,
right?
Indiana Jones, last Raiders of the Lost Ark, and so there's a lot of stuff going on up there that we're not being told about.
Have you heard about the giants? I don't know if you've been paying attention to a lot of the discoveries, but they've discovered so many giant skeletons all over the earth.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of huge bodies being found all over the earth. I mean, I've been following that for years. Some of them seem to be like 36-foot tall humans.
Yes.
Bones have been found where humans, the bones, you reconstruct the body from the bone that was found, and they'd have to be at least 3.5 stories high.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's what the Bible talks, and not just the Bible. My God, all the ancient literature from the Middle East, all the ancient literature from the Himalayas talk about the great giants, and some of them are 20 and 30 feet tall. I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
Absolutely.
They have dinosaurs that big, so why couldn't humans be?
What about the Epic of Gilgamesh? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the Epic of Gilgamesh gave us today the story of the flood of Noah's day. Noah and the flood in the Bible is actually an old story based on the Epic of Gilgamesh. That's another whole story that we could get into about this Epic of Gilgamesh being the basis for the flood of Noah's day. First of all, there was no worldwide flood. That is ludicrous scientifically to even consider. There may have been a great flood somewhere, but not a worldwide flood, obviously.
Right.
Because you couldn't have a worldwide flood. It's impossible. Right out the bat, logic alone would tell you that. Why? Where did the water go to that covered the earth? Even a mountain. Well, all right, what about Mount Everest? That's kind of high. Did it cover Mount Everest? Well, if it covered Mount Everest, how deep would that be? Well, hell, Mount Everest is 7 miles high, and the deepest part of the ocean is 7 miles in the Pacific down. So we're talking about a 14 miles difference. where did all the water go? Well, first of all, there wasn't a worldwide flood. And the whole idea of the flood is based on the Gilgamesh epic, which is thousands of years before, the story of Noah even came into being. So many of the stories in the Old Testament are based on the ancient Egyptian,
Yes.
ancient Sumerian, ancient writings that we're not told about.
Well, also what's called the Enuma Elish.
Yeah.
There is, I think it's Joseph Farrell. I've been reading one of his books, and he's
I've been
talking
with him. Yeah.
Oh, have you? Excellent.
A good friend of mine.
Well, he's been talking a lot about, the weaponry and using meteors as directed weapons, and how they destroyed certain planets, what was called Tiamat, and created, what destroyed the atmosphere on Mars, and so on. So, so are you?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand, because out in space, it's not a fiery missile. It's just a rock that's sailing at a high speed. But if you're extraterrestrial, and we know that they can do all kinds of things we can't do, they can move that thing while it's in space. It's not hot. It's not filled with fire. It's only filled with fire when it hits our atmosphere. So it's just a rock. You can, if you have the technology, just aim it over a little bit over this way, and eventually it's going to hit the Earth.
Well, I mean, it's said that part of the sinking of Atlantis was due to a meteor being targeted and hit at that civilization. And what we're really talking about is, some people call it the Atlantean conspiracy, this playing out on the Earth right now, that what was going on then is going on now.
Yeah, well, I know that, and many of the founding fathers talked about America will be the new Atlantis.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I have documents, and they're on the web if you know where to find them, of newspapers that were published back in the 1700s. After the founding of the U.S., there are newspapers published here in this country talking about America and the Saturnian New Age, which was coming, and Saturn will rule America in the New Age, and it's going to be a Saturn god will be the god over America, Saturn.
But isn't Saturn Satan?
Say it again?
Saturn is Satan.
Well, Saturn is a planet, and it's referred to in the ancient world as Lord of the Rings. And Saturn is the god. Today, Saturn is the god of the Hebrews. The Jewish people worship the planet Saturn. He's called Yahweh, Allah. And if you go back into the history, you'll find that Allah and Yahweh are connected with Saturn, Saturnian. Then it's connected to the moon and the moon worship. There's a whole story here about Allah and Yahweh, excuse me, and Jesus, that people have never been told. It's all right there in the reference books and history books.
Well, it connects also to that black rock that they go, that the Muslims circle around.
Yeah, that's called Mecca. It's in the Mecca, but it's a square black building. And anyone who knows anything about esoteric symbolism knows that
it's a cube.
A black cube represents Saturn.
Yes.
Now, listen, the words, the god Saturn in the Phoenician language, we call it Hebrew. But there is no such a thing as a Hebrew language. There is no such a thing as a Hebrew language. It's a language that the Hebrews speak. So we call it Hebrew, but it's not Hebrew. It's a Phoenician Canaanite language. But the Hebrews speak it, so we call it Hebrew. It's not Hebrew. Now, in the Phoenician Canaanite florid slice Hebrew language, the planet Saturn is called Shabbath, spelled S-H-A-B-B-A-T-H, Shabbath. Look it up in a dictionary, it will tell you Shabbath is a Phoenician Canaanite Jewish name for the planet Saturn. So therefore, if you're going to worship Shabbat, you dedicate a day to him called Sabbath. So the Sabbath is the worship of Shabbat. So the Jews are worshiping the planet Saturn on Shabbat or Sabbath. And therefore, that's why they worship after sundown on Friday till after sundown on Saturday, because it's Saturn's day. The Jews are worshiping the planet Saturn, and the Jews in Hollywood are not stupid. They're making movies about their God called Lord of the Rings. Saturn is Lord of the Rings. It's Jewish. You need to wake up and understand Hollywood is Jewish. And the symbols in motion pictures are Jewish symbols. And so Sabbath, the holy day of Sabbath that Christians and Jews are observing, is the worship of the planet Saturn. And so if it's true what you're saying, Sabbath is Saturn, and Saturn is the devil, well, then that should tell you something about what's going on in the world today.
Right.
It's you know, the Jewish religion is really what I have called an eclectic religion. I could go on for 3 hours on this one. Judaism is an eclectic religion. Eclectic meaning a smorgasbord.
Yes.
You can go through and pick what you want from Hindu, pick what you want from Egypt, pick a little bit from the Babylon, pick a little bit from the India, pick a little bit from here and there, and put it all together, and it's called Judaism. Judaism is an eclectic religion, like a smorgasbord dinner. And so when you begin looking at the words Sabbath, no, Shabbat, the planet Saturn, and they make it movies, Lord of the Rings, that's right, Sabbath is Saturn, the Lord of the Ring. That's why the ancient people said women were to wear a wedding ring. They were to wear a ring in their ear. It's called an ear ring. Men were to get married before Shabbat or Sabbath and wearing a wedding ring. So he's the Lord of the Rings. I'm just telling you that Judaism, yes, Christianity, and Islam are all three dreamt up religions who have been dreamt up a long time ago, and Islam in particular is probably a Vatican Knights Templar religion, dreamt up during the 1500s by the Knights Templars. And I am telling you also, provable, Judaism itself is not a BC religion. Judaism was developed somewhere between, I would say, 8th, 9th, and 10th century AD. There was no ancient Jerusalem. There was no ancient Israel. Jerusalem may have been there, but there was no ancient Israel. There was no King Solomon. There was no King David. There was no King Saul. None of those people actually, in fact, lived. It was a story. That's what the Bible's called, the greatest story ever told. It's a story. It's not correct. It's not history. It's a story.
Were you aware of, I don't know if you ever knew about Norm Bergram, who I interviewed?
Norm is a dear friend, a wonderful dear friend of mine, yes.
Okay, well, he disappeared, you know.
Yeah, I know. I can see why, too.
Well, right after I interviewed him, in fact, and he talked about the ships he had seen in the rings of Saturn, and he said they were on the way here. Yeah. That was several years ago now. And after that, he disappeared, and I believe he was basically taken underground to go back to work on black projects. He's a brilliant man.
Very.
So yes, you know about that. Then the ships of Saturn.
I know. I sat with Norm up in San Francisco at one of the big conferences, and he and I sat in the lobby, and he showed me a lot of pictures that other people have never seen. Told me a lot of stuff about Saturn that no one's ever heard before. And I knew this guy is very, very bright guy, very, very knowledgeable.
Yes,
but, you know, there's just so many things that I've heard from brilliant people. I say this all the time. I'm not the world's foremost authority on anything. I'm smart enough to know how much I don't know. But one thing I do know, and the one thing I do bring to the table, I feel is that valuable are the people I have met. I have been involved with, met, and become very close friends with all kinds of interesting, strange, powerful people, and who tell me things. Not alone, of course, I've had my own experiences, major experiences, but I also know a lot of people you would not suspect that I even know, that have told me strange, incredible things which are happening. I talk about them loosely, and then when it happens, people say, well, Jordan Maxwell talked about that 10 years ago. Yeah, well, you don't know who I was the company of, who I'm talking with in private. So I'm just telling you, I can't, I'm not allowed. No, it doesn't make any sense to go out and tell people, the private conversations I've had with Zachariah Sitchin, the private conversations I've had with people who are in the position to know.
Well, one of the things,
interesting stuff out there, boy.
Jordan, one of the things you had let us know, and you said was sort of a key thing, was that Zachariah himself felt he was in direct touch with Enki.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And what else did he tell you? Were there any other secrets that he told you about the Anunnaki? Because, Bob Dean has said that the Anunnaki are walking the halls of the Pentagon.
I was a bit surprised. That makes sense to me. From what I have heard from other Pentagon people and from other military people, I think that's what I would say. I wouldn't mind saying that.
Okay. All right.
I obviously, since I was in business with Zachariah Sitchin, and I helped send him to 5 countries, I helped get some of his books published, and he was a dear friend of mine. He signed a contract with me back in the mid-90s to send him to different countries, and I was going to produce a 13 one-hour mini-series for television based on his work. So I was in business with him. Well, being in business with Zachariah Sitchin put me into a position where I could sit and talk with him privately many times in different areas of the country. And there are things which was said which was shocking to me.
That there is a lot of people out there now that say Sitchin was lying. What do you feel about that?
No, I don't think he was lying. I think he was an extraordinarily brilliant man who knew things, but he's only telling you what he can tell you. As far as I'm concerned, if I ever, and I will, when I talk with you, I'll tell you some of the things he told me in confidence, but it cannot be repeated because I told him I would never repeat it. But knowing all the things that he has said to me and knowing him, there's no doubt in my mind he was very legitimate, extraordinarily intelligent man, but he also had cosmic companionship. He absolutely had cosmic companionship in his work. He was heavily involved in his work. He was not a fool. He knew exactly what he was doing and exactly what he was saying. And so I have the highest of regard for Zachariah Sitchin and his work.
Okay, what about Manly Palmer Hall?
That's a different subject. Manly Palmer Hall was a dear friend of mine. And I say, it's my opinion, but I say he was one of the greatest teachers that ever lived on this earth, period. I don't care if you go all the way back to Plato. One of the greatest single teachers the world has ever known was Manly Palmer Hall. And
didn't he give you his notebooks?
Yeah. When he passed away, I got a phone call from Obadiah Harris, who the president of the Manly P. Hall University at the time. And he said, Mr. Hall left you a gift. He specifically put it in his will to leave you a gift. And I thought, wow, Mr. Hall left me something. He said, yeah. I said, what is it, Zachariah? What is it? He said, just come pick it up. I got to tell you, just come pick it up. And I got there. I drove up from San Diego that very day because anything Manly P. Hall would leave me, he was a great master. And if he's leaving me something, I want to know what it is immediately. So I drove up there, and Mr. Hall left me the complete works of his research. It's called his magazines or his booklets, and there was I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 of them or more of all of his booklets that he had done over the years, researched all of his work, put it into booklets. And so it amounted to the entire work of Manly P. Hall in his research booklet. He left me, and I was told at the time there's only a couple sets. I was told that there were 2 sets at PRS, Philosophical Research Society. They had 2 complete sets, one in the president's office and one in the general library, Mr. Hall's private library. But the 3rd set he gave to me. And I thought that was an incredible gift that Mr. Hall gave me. The entire work, his entire work, he left it to me.
Okay.
Which I lost. I lost it.
Was it lost in the fire in
Yeah,
South
it was
America?
lost in the fire. Yeah.
Well, not us. It was it Panama? I think you were in Panama.
Panama.
Yeah.
In Panama. Yeah. I am sure that the Mossad. This is my feeling. Mossad. You might as well say CIA if you say Mossad. But either CIA or Mossad knew that I was in Panama and knew that I was shipping my stuff down there to live. And so the day it finally got there, it took 6 weeks for it to get there because it came by ship. And the morning it was supposed to be delivered, they told me a couple of days before, yes, here, it's on the dock, it's going to be delivered tomorrow morning. And the next morning we got a phone call saying, I'm sorry, but that little area on the dock where your stuff was caught fire and it's all gone, burned up.
Right.
So I lost everything. I lost all my books, all my masters, all my tapes, videos, books, research materials, Manly P. Hall's work, along with all the other boxes and boxes of handwritten notes. Everything in my life was gone, burned to the ground, period.
Okay. Thank you. I'm very sorry about that, Jordan.
I am too.
I wanted to ask you about, you had a health issue recently, a heart attack. Did you feel that you had been targeted, or did you have a thought about that?
Well, no, I don't think so. I don't think I was targeted. I think it's because my health has been so bad for so long. And so I had to leave Los Angeles because I had no place to go, and I had a friend in Las Vegas who offered me a room. So since I had no place to go here and no money at all, so they came to pick me up and give me a room. So I lived in Las Vegas. Well, I only for 1 year, and I started feeling my heart was getting worse by the day. At night, my heart would stop and start and stop. And so finally the pain was so excruciating in my arm and my chest, so bad that I couldn't even sit down. I had to stand up and lean over to even breathe. And I knew something was going bad, something was going wrong immediately. So I told the people I was living with, I need to go to the hospital now. So they drove me over to a very nice, very, very nice hospital in Las Vegas. And when I came in, it just so happened that the heart doctor, the heart surgeon, just by chance happened to be there at that hour of the evening. Wasn't supposed to be there, but he just by chance happened to be there in the suit, all ready to go home. And when I came in, I had to tell the nurse what the problem was, and he said, "That's a heart attack. Come with me." And I went, and and the lady I was with took some pictures of me. I didn't even know it, but she took some pictures of me, and then it ended up on the web, pictures of me there when he was examining me. And right after that, he said, "We operate immediately." So I was in the operating room. 15 minutes later, I'm in the operating room, and they had to cut into my veins on my leg and in my arm and send tubes up into my heart, and they had to do it quickly. So I wasn't even out at the time. I was half out, but I could feel the tubes going through my arm and through my legs. But the bottom line is that he saved my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's obviously you're meant to stick around for a longer time here. And to continue your mission, obviously. We've kept you for a while, and I don't want to keep you too long. We do have people in the chat that want to ask you some questions. One person who was in the chat earlier had asked me to ask you about the sort of, well, what is in essence the rising sun, the significance of the sun, the new day dawning, and all of that. Yeah.
Well, I've got a video, a brand new video that's done, but it's not out yet. And, it's called Cosmocrat. Cosmocrat is a new video. It's about I think it's a little over an hour, in which I talk all about that subject, what the symbol is, this rising sun. And it's so extraordinary when you see it, because you have to see things with your eyes to really get the impression. of how important it is.
Right.
And then when you see music and all the Hollywood music and musicals and motion pictures and television shows, all using that same symbol, those same words, it's all over Hollywood, it's all over the world, it's in all national seals and presidential seals and hallertry and coats of arms.
But isn't the bottom line, the rising sun, also symbolic of Marduk and the return of Marduk?
Well, I would be a bit surprised that that's a part of it too. Yeah. It's a worldwide symbol that's used everywhere, but it is used in such a way that it would shock you when you finally see it. And that's what I've done with this video. It's taken me, I started looking at this symbol of the rising sun in relation to the Communist Party, the Nazi Party, the Fascist Party, all of the ancient political parties and revolutionary movements, along with all the religions, all the subversive political movements like Nazism, fascism, communism. They all use the same symbols. Well, then I found out, didn't take me long, because I've learned what is called pattern recognition. I learned that communism, Nazism, and fascism are all one movement. It's just, you got General Motors, but they produce Pontiacs and Oldsmobiles and Chevys, but it's all one company. It's called General Motors, and they're the boss over everybody. Well, there is one operation on the earth that's called the WRM, the World Revolutionary Movement, which controls communism, Nazism, fascism, capitalism. The entire superstructure of the world finance and government is all under control of one organization. And I don't care what anybody has to say about it. It doesn't matter. It's all there. Once you go back into history and trace the rise of the British and the European countries and who was financing them, and then find out the same people financing America and the corporations here. It's a very interesting and powerful story, and I go into it in this hour-and-a-half documentary I produced.
Okay, excellent. Well, let us know when it's available, and we will we'll put an ad for it on our site to get people
that would be great.
To get access to it. Someone in the chat wants to know about your view of Nibiru and or the return of Planet X, all of that. Do you have a thought about any of that?
I talked with Zachariah in private up in Portland, Oregon one night, and I talked with him about that. And suffice it to say, he told me, don't worry about it because you'll never see it in your lifetime. Most likely, people on the earth that are being born today will not see it in their lifetime. So it seems to be a long ways away. And we're not going to see it anyway. We're not going to see it. I mean, that's what Zachariah Ascension said. I don't know. I mean, but that's what he said. Don't worry about it, Jordan. You're never going to see it in your lifetime.
Okay.
And I said, what about the young children that are being born today? No, they're not going to see it in their lifetime either. So. Okay.
Well, you understand about this whole, what is in essence a Luciferian conspiracy.
That's what I'm talking about in my video, Cosmocrat.
Yes.
Yeah.
But where it goes, which I think a lot of people don't realize, is it goes directly to artificial intelligence.
Well, I wouldn't be a bit surprised. That's what I've been talking about for the past hour and a half. First of all, let me explain something to your audience. The Bible says in the book of Revelation, Jesus says, I am Lucifer. So if you want to talk about Lucifer, you need to understand from the biblical point of view. I don't care about your religion or your philosophical view, but from the actual biblical record, read the Bible. Jesus in the book of Revelation says, I am Lucifer. Therefore, Lucifer is actually Jesus. Jesus is Lucifer. I don't know if you can handle that or not. I don't know if you believe it. I couldn't care less. Go read it.
I think that what he means is he was the real bringer of light.
That's right. Well, that's what it means, the bringer of light. That's in Revelation 22:16.
Right. Okay.
He said, I am the great morning star.
Yes.
And so you look up Morning Star and a biblical encyclopedia. Go to the biblical libraries. Go to the seminary libraries and look up in all 14 of 15 biblical dictionaries and reference books, and it will tell you the bright shining star is Lucifer. And the Catholic Church is even in the Catholic dictionary says bright morning star is Lucifer, which is Jesus. Jesus is Lucifer.
Well, so, he is the true light. There is
right.
the true light in the reflection. What Luciferianism is falling in love with the mirror, with the image. And in essence, that is where you get these, the dark side.
The whole idea, let me explain
and
it
this
to you.
is where artificial
that
intelligence
Jesus is referred to as Lucifer because he is the bringer of light. Light is in a word we use in relation to intelligence. So if you're stupid, you're in the dark. But if you're brilliant, which is a word for bright, that means you're very well informed. You're brilliant in a subject. And so he's very bright. Well, it means that you're very intelligent, well-read. If you're not, then you're in the dark.
Well, light is also symbolic of enlightenment, which is more than just. It's more than just. Yeah, but it's more than just being intelligent. It's a spiritual thing.
Well, I understand that. That's what I'm trying to get to. Eventually, okay. You get to that. That not only is it enlightenment. That you can get from a book. If you learn how to read, you can begin to enlighten yourself. But of course, it also has to do with metaphysical or spiritual enlightenment. Also, you begin to get thinking deeper into subject and begin to see things you didn't see before. So yeah, so light can be used in different ways. You're enlightened. You are a bright light to the world, or you're in the dark and you're stumbling around. So, So what's happening is that there are other people who are very bright but evil, and so they want to be the light of the world. The very word Antichrist, this is important in relation to this subject. When you use the word Antichrist, we think it means against Christ, against Jesus, against God. No, it does not mean that at all. The word anti today in English means to be against something, but not in the ancient languages. The ancient language, anti meant to be in the place of. So when you say anti-Christ, somebody wants to be like Christ. So they're not against Christ. No, they want to be Christ. And so
but there is a side to that that's quite dark. They want to impersonate Christ.
Well, I thought that's what I was saying.
I know.
I thought that's what I was.
All right. Well, I think people,
if you let me finish, I'll say that somebody wants to be Christ. Somebody wants to be the Holy One who will enlighten you. Somebody wants to worship to come to them. And so they are anti-Christ, meaning they're not against Christ. They want to be Christ. That's what the word anti means in the ancient languages. So obviously, on the face of it, somebody wants to present themselves as if they are God and they have all the wisdom and knowledge of the Christ, the Christos, the Word of God. They are the bottom line. So they are referred to by the ancient scriptures as anti, meaning somebody who wants to be Christ. Yes. They're not against the idea of Christ. They want to be Christ. So obviously, there are religious leaders and all kinds of religious, religious liars and business people who want to make money and present themselves to be the enlightened ones of the scriptures. They want to be the Christ. So therefore, Antichrist can be applied to lots of people. Most, and I would say, in my opinion, anybody on Christian television is an antichrist. They want to be the Christ. They want to be the great light giver.
Okay. Someone wants to know.
The same thing can be applied. The same thing can be applied to the Illuminati. We call them Illuminati because they are illuminated, meaning that means symbolically they think that they are highly intelligent, enlightened people.
Yes.
And they are the bottom line that you have to come to for wisdom and knowledge. So they are anti-Christ, or they want to be like Christ. So, that's not even that too.
Okay.
But
Someone wants to know about the OTO and the Rosicrucians.
OTO is the Ordo Templar Orientalis, which was originally called the Church of Satan, and the Church of Satan came out of OTO. OTO came out of the Church of Satan. The bottom line is, I would suggest, and it's just my opinion, you stay as far away from OTO as you can possibly get. Get in the car and drive as far away from it as you can possibly get, because that thing is really dark.
Okay.
You talk about some dark stuff. Go watch Exorcist, The Exorcism. Go watch that movie first. To understand something about OTO, go watch the movie.
Okay, and they're also asking you about the Rosicrucians.
Rosicrucians were a very intelligent people during the Middle Ages and what we call medieval times, and they were the holders of spiritual understanding, metaphysical understanding of symbols and emblems. I think it's fascinating, the work of the Rosicrucians, but the Rosicrucians have been co-opted by like so many other groups that were so many other groups were very intelligent and starting to do great research into symbolic, and eventually got sucked into Illuminati, and now they are part of the dark side.
Right.
But basically, I think the work of the Rosicrucians was very interesting stuff. They were explaining all the hidden symbolism and alchemy, etc. So I don't find anything bad about the Rosicrucians at all.
Okay.
I just think it's a very educated thing to do, is to look into Rosicrucianism. But joining them, I don't know. I don't think Rosicrucian is what it used to be. It's not what it used to be. So I would stay away from it. But you can read a bunch of the old Rosicrucian documents and books. They're very informative, very enlightening.
Yes. Okay, good. The CERN, some people are asking about CERN. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm not concerned about CERN, but CERN, I think the man who's really got that subject nailed down, who understands it totally, is Joseph Farrell. I've talked with Joseph about that.
Okay. Well, I've invited him on my show, but he said he's too busy until October or something. So.
Well, I know he's a busy man. But,
yeah. Okay.
But if anybody knows about CERN, he does, because there's a whole world of science that has not been told to the people of this world. Yes. A whole entire world of occult or hidden science, which is really going on at CERN that you don't know about.
Yeah.
Something that's really going on, very important and very big, and it's massive. When you understand what the scientists of the Illuminati masters, what the scientists of the Illuminati are actually planning and what they're doing. That's why they spent that kind of money on CERN, because they're getting ready to do something which is affecting our solar system and our life on the earth. Whatever it is, it's scary, it's big, and it's coming. So that's why they put that kind of money into CERN. It's not just to find out about the stars and about the energy of life. No. They got something up their sleeve they haven't told you.
Yes. Are you aware of this artificial intelligence, this D-Wave, the company called D-Wave, that's talking about a quantum computer that's able to access other dimensions?
Yeah, I've heard about it, but I haven't looked into it.
Okay.
Because that's the kind of stuff that's coming out now. It's everywhere.
Yes.
Every time you turn around, there's a new website out there, a new science of some sort, new technology. It's out of control. See, what is actually happening is that our technology is now at a breakneck speed, while our morality, our ethics, and our morals and scruples are dead. So we're on the same boat that Atlantis was. According to the story of Atlantis, they were brilliant in their technology, but they didn't give a damn about human life. They didn't give a damn about life. They were doing what they wanted. They were onto a power trip. Well, that's what we are today. The world is on a power trip to have the political power, the money and corruption, and to control the world, but their technology is off the wall. I mean, the technology is extraordinary. Well, I think we are the new Atlantis.
Yes.
That's why, we're heading in the same direction. One day and one night, Atlantis was destroyed. So I'm looking at the world today and wondering how much longer are the gods going to allow the humans to do what they're doing? So that's my feeling.
All
When I
right.
say gods, I mean the extraterrestrials who are the ones who brought us here, who created us. I think we've been created with somebody else's property. And I've known that ever since 1959, 55 years ago, when I started reading Charles Fort, and the complete works of Charles Fort, where he talked about the very good possibility, very real possibility. We're test tube babies. We've been created by somebody else, and we're their children.
Okay. Well, I have to say, though, that keep in mind that we are spirit having a physical experience here on
that's
Earth.
True. That's true. We are.
Yeah. So it goes beyond that. No one owns our spirit, our souls.
Unless, of course, we make a deal. Unless we make a deal to sell it to them.
Right. With the devil, so to speak.
Yep.
But even so, the light will prevail. I want to thank you so much, Jordan, for coming on the show tonight. It's been a lot of fun. I think it's been a wild ride for everyone who's been listening, and we've got quite a good audience out there. So this will go onto YouTube, and I'm sure people will be very interested to hear more of what you have to say by going to your shows, that your research that's available on your website and your videos. And please do stay in touch with me. I'd love you to send me when this new documentary is available, something so that we can put it on the website. Okay.
Well, I would love to do that. Love to do that for sure. And we need to get together and
yes.
and talk later. And I would just say one last thing. My website, Jordan Maxwell Show, is the only legitimate Jordan Maxwell operation out there on the web. Jordan Maxwell Show. And when you go there, you will see a button, a banner that says a research society. It's just a second website I have where I'm dumping all of my research onto that and onto that private research website. So go there and join. And again, thank you, Carrie, and we'll do it again.
Thank you so much, and have a great night. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm going to run the credits now, and I'm going to hang up with you, Jordan. And
okay.
we'll be in touch with you soon. Okay. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. And I am going to have Jim Mars on the show next week. We're going to be talking about the what may or may not be the lack of an incident that the remote viewers were talking about. He is trying to get a hold of Dick Allgaier for me and has not, well, we have not been able to do so. It seems that there was some kind of a blackout, that they didn't want information about this potential event to get out there. I don't know what happened. I do know that Jim Mars was out of communication for several days. His phones weren't working, etc. So I'm sure that wasn't an accident. And all I can tell you is that I've tried to put this show together. It's been very difficult, and obviously there has been some blocking happening. So stay tuned. I will have Jim Mars next week. I believe it's Wednesday night on the show. He's going to be on the show on the 31st of August. So thanks for watching, and have a great night.